It's my pleasure to be here, and today we are going to talk about some practical aspects of implementing AI in the enterprise. We all know that theory and practice can sometimes be very different, and this is especially true in the enterprise where a lot of people are involved. But before I begin, I just wanted to give you some data and context as to why this is such an important topic today. And the reason is because today we are obviously under the pandemic, and COVID obviously created a lot of disruption for business. But one thing it also does is that it greatly accelerated the adoption of digital technology and speed up digital transformation significantly. So McKinsey actually have lots of data that shows that there's a modest growth of online shopping over the past decade. But this year, with the onset of COVID, this jumped dramatically to almost double that of last year. So that's actually, I would say 10 years of growth that happened all in 4 months. So this is pretty dramatic. So what does that mean to a business? So now if you think about it, if you are a brick and mortar business, I would say your market is obviously limited to those just geographically around you, but your competition is also limited to those who are close by you also. But think about what happened when you actually go online. When you actually go online and become a digital business, right? All of a sudden, your market increases dramatically and become global because digital is borderless, right? You could connect to everybody else on the globe through the internet. But your competition also increased dramatically as well because now you'll be competing with every single online business on the planet, okay? So the question is, how do you actually stand out, in such a big competition? So I think this is always a time where it's always instructive to take a look at what some of the leaders are actually doing in this space and how they are able to compete so effectively with such a great competition in this digital world. So let's take a look at Amazon. Now, one of the tools that actually that they use to differentiate is artificial intelligence. So I often talk about 4 major categories of artificial intelligence that's very important in business today. And these are the 4 types of AI that's listed here. And so let's take a look at what Amazon is actually doing with these artificial intelligence tool. So first, let's take a look at Internet AI. So Internet AI is sometimes also called personalization AI because they are essentially recommender systems, okay? So obviously Amazon have a very famous recommender system that goes by the very long name of people who bought this also bought that. And that's a classic recommender. But Amazon is also using this type of AI to personalize your experience pretty much everywhere along on their website, okay? Everything from what you see to how you like to do your checkout and how you like your product be delivered. So it's actually using this type of AI to personalize your customer experience. Now, next, let's take a look at this perceptual AI. So perceptual AI is sometimes also called cognitive AI or cognitive computing. And because they are mainly there to try to mimic the higher cognitive function of a human being, such as speech, language, and vision. So from a technology perspective, they are essentially some kind of chatbots or digital assistants or some kind of vision system, computer vision systems. Now for digital assistant, I'm sure all of you have seen this Alexa, probably are familiar with it and have it in your home, right? So now with Alexa, people can actually shop online with a simple voice command, anywhere, anytime, right? So this makes shopping a lot easier. So people shop more and as a result, buy more, right? So now what happened when you actually provide a machine with computer vision system, with computer vision capability? What happens if a machine actually have an eye and can see things, right? So the obvious application that a lot of data scientists would think of is, well, some kind of object recognition, some kind of face recognition, face ID, and so on. Now, these are the obvious applications, but Amazon is actually taking that to the whole next level. They are using these computer vision systems to create a store that have no checkout line, okay? Because this store, it has this sophisticated computer vision system that sees what everything's going on in the store and basically knows who picked up what item and can charge to the proper account. So basically in this Amazon Go store, you simply have to scan your account to get in. go inside, pick up whatever you want, and then just walk out, okay? So now this is a very sophisticated use of this computer vision system, right? Because this Amazon Go store could be crowded, right? And moreover, more than one person can actually go in under the same account. You know, for example, I could scan my account and go in with a couple of my friends, and then we can all pick up the item that we want. And after all of us have walked out, Amazon was actually able to figure out, to charge all the items that every one of my friends picked up to my account. Okay, that's pretty amazing. So now basically Amazon is actually using these AI, this perceptual AI, this cognitive AI to essentially make shopping simpler, okay? So that people shop more and actually buy more. Now, next class of AI that we'll take a look is autonomous AI. So autonomous AI is actually the AI behind the self-driving car, okay? So obviously Amazon is not building a self-driving car, at least not yet. Maybe someday they will. But they already are leveraging this type of AI in their fulfillment center, in their warehouse. So if you actually ever visit Amazon warehouse, you will see that there are lots of robotics in there that's working alongside human. Now there are some, I would say, robotic arms that have rudimentary levels of intelligence, right? They have camera system on them that probably will prevent them from grabbing something that looked like a human, and that will only allow them to pick up something that looked like a box, right? So these are, I would say, systems that have, I would say, rudimentary of intelligence, right? But there's also these shuttle bots that actually shuttle contents around, and they're really, really smart. They're really intelligent, okay? So previously, humans have to run around this warehouse to pick up inventory from different places, and that's actually very time consuming. But now these shuttle bots can actually shuttle these inventories to the humans and for them to be worked on. Now, these shuttle bots are very, very smart, okay? They can actually know how to stay in their own lanes. They have designated lanes in this warehouse, and they can avoid collisions with other shuttle bots and even avoid human collision with humans. They could even avoid traffic and congestion just like an autonomous vehicle, all right? So think of them as just essentially a miniature self-driving car, except they operate in this very well controlled environment of warehouse. So now if you can actually shuttle inventories in the warehouse, these warehouses are actually pretty gigantic, okay? Now, why not just take this a little bit further and actually shuttle your product to somebody's home, right? Say if you have an Amazon truck that drives to a certain location, and then you could just deploy a bunch of these delivery bots to shuttle the product to people's home, right? So now Amazon is actually experimenting with these delivery bots. They're not widespread yet, but they're actually experimenting with it, right? So now if you can actually shuttle stuff to people's home with delivery bot, why not fly them there if it's someplace difficult to get to, right? If the terrain or it's actually challenging, right? So Amazon is also experimenting with drone delivery. So obviously you can see that these autonomous AI can make machines that traditionally don't have any intelligence and give them some kind of intelligence, give them some kind of, make them smart and operate autonomously, right? Without creating, crashing into people or trees or something like that, right? So Amazon is actually using this type of AI to actually automate their logistics, okay? Now the next class of AI that I want to talk about is called business AI. So now the business AI is sometimes also called decision AI, because their biggest application is in business decision and automation, right? So basically they will try to mimic a decision that the business user make and try to automate those decisions in a business. So Amazon actually uses a lot of business AI and decision AI, but I want to talk about two use cases here. So one is in fraud prevention. So Amazon actually traditionally, I would say, had a lot of these are fraud investigators. Okay, they are there to look at transactions and examine them to see if they are potential fraud, and then if they are fraud, they would take some actions to correct them and actually take some action to prevent future fraud. Now, their decisions and actions will basically capture as data, and these data is used to train an AI to actually mimic the decision. Okay, so now Amazon actually have these AI systems that's able to essentially detect fraud with pretty high degrees of accuracy and recommend actions on what to do with those frauds. okay, different types of fraud, right? And now the fraud investigator only has to review these actions and check to see what's going on, whether these are truly fraud, and whether they agree with the recommended action and execute them, right? So this actually saves a lot of time for the fraud investigators. Now, another example that I want to talk about is dynamic pricing. So Amazon have this rich data of transaction. They have a huge amount of transaction data that goes on. So you can actually use this data to price every single item that's sold in the Amazon market, right? Every 10 minutes, right? So this is a very, very huge scale price change, right? So this, even if you have a team of pricing analysts, you're probably not able to review every single price change that's happening, right? Because that's just too big of a scale, okay? So now, but the reality is that you probably don't have to, okay? And most of the time, these pricing analysts are only looking at, I would say, the extreme outliers that resulted in like very, very dramatic price change. And even if they miss some of those, it's probably okay, because after 10 minutes, these will probably be corrected anyway, right? If the price was off, it was too high, and the system will actually see a drop in demand, and they will actually readjust that price again, right? So every 10 minutes, it's actually doing this. So basically, Amazon is using these system, these decision AI to help them essentially optimize their business decision. Now, obviously, Amazon didn't just make this happen overnight, right? This is actually a pretty long journey, even for a company like Amazon. So what does this journey look like? So I've created a 6-stage AI adoption maturity curve that could show you what this journey looked like for you. And you can actually use this, if you're already embarking on this AI adoption journey, you can use this as an AI adoption roadmap to show you what's coming next as well. So the first stage of this AI adoption maturity curve is what we call digitization of work. So digitization of work is all about creating the raw material for AI, right? Basically, this is all about getting the data that's needed to train the AI to mimic how we work, right? So evidently, the first stage of digital transformation is also called digitization. So if you're actually embarking on digital transformation, you're probably doing this already. Now, once you're able to digitize work, right, you will have a lot of data on how we work, right? And typically, people go through 3 different stages of analytic maturity as well, right? So the first thing that people typically do is they will summarize these data, so that will inform decision makers about what's working, what's not working in their company, and so they can reorganize things so people work more effectively together as a team, as a whole. So this is what we call descriptive analytics. And the next stage is what we call predictive analytics. They start to use these data to infer something else that they don't have, infer some other data that they don't have, to make an estimate of some other data that they don't have, right? Or even make forecasts about something that's in the future that they could in fact never have. Okay? So that's predictive analytics. But the most sophisticated of this analytic maturity is what we call prescriptive analytics, where they're actually using this data to make a prescription, where they're to recommend an action or actions or decisions on what to do in order to optimize some kind of outcome. Okay, so once you're able to do prescriptive analytics, you're ready to move on to the next stage of this AI adoption maturity curve. So the next stage is what we call exchanging data for automation. Now, since you have a lot of data that you collected about how humans work, right, and you're able to do prescriptive analytics already, now remember, prescriptive analytics is the system is able to tell you, recommend actions on what to do. But think about this, if they are able to recommend an action that will optimize some kind of outcome, why not just actually do it? Why does it have to tell you what to do and you go and do it, right? So think about this example. A GPS is actually a very common prescriptive analytic system that we are very familiar with every day, right? So basically, you tell the GPS where you want to go, and then the GPS will basically prescribe you a sequence of action on how to get to your destination, right? So they are prescriptive analytic. They're prescribing actions for you to take to get to somewhere that you want to go, right? But why just tell you what to go? Why tell you, turn left here, go straight for a mile, and then make a right, right? Why not just actually take you there, right? So this is when we actually moving into the autonomous vehicle, self-driving car, they are actually just automating those decisions for you. Right? If you give all this data to an AI, and the AI is able to make those decisions for you, right, then it's actually able to take you directly to the destination that you want, right? So these tend to be, I would say, in the business world, these tend to be very narrow domain, some point solutions, such as in the case of Amazon that I talk about with the fraud prevention and dynamic pricing use case, right? So these are, they used to have people that actually price the different product that they have, and they also have people to actually determine whether some transactions are fraud, right? But having data about what these price should be and whether something is a fraud and what action these people take when there's actually a fraud, and having this data, they can actually train the AI to mimic what people do, right? And actually to replicate what they're doing and automate those actions and decisions for them, right? So now once you are able to automate this decision, this obviously wouldn't be perfect at the beginning, right? So then we're ready to move on to the next stage where we are actually learning from a human. So because these systems are actually not perfect, right? Obviously, sometimes they will recommend actions that the human disagree with, right? So when the human disagree with those actions, the human can actually override and say, okay, I will not actually take this action. Instead, I will do this. I will do this other action. So now when you do this, because in stage one, we're already able to digitize work, right? So when you're actually taking over and performing the action yourself, your system is actually, your AI is actually digitizing the way you work. So you actually had data on how you, what actions you take that was different from what the AI actually recommended, and it's able to use those data to refine this model of how we work on different scenarios, right? Maybe you have never seen this scenario, so you never know what actions to take, right? So you recommend a bad action, but you took over and you took some actions, and then you solved the problem. And then these data is actually collected for the AI to actually refine its model. So it knows that in the future, when they see similar situation like this, it will know how to react and what to do, right? So if you, as you can imagine, if you do this over and over again, this AI eventually becomes really, really good. It's able to react and respond to a wide variety of actions that we would have took in different situations, right? So now when it's able to do this, then we actually move into the next stage, which is stage 4, okay? Stage 4 is what we call full automation and job shift. So if the AI is actually doing such a good job at automating what we humans do, why not just let the AI take over, right? So while you may say, well, what do humans do then, right? Now the answer is the same as in the case as if you were training a new employee or an intern, right, to do your job. If these new employees and interns are doing such a good job at automating, at helping you, at helping you do your job, right, then you should just hire them and actually let them take over your job, right? Then what do, right? You become managers. You become, you take on more responsibility, more different types of job, right? But the nature of your job actually changes. You're actually doing less hands-on work, but you're actually taking on greater responsibility that's more strategic and more important to the company, right? So the same thing will happen in the case of AI. If the AI is taking over our jobs because they do such a good job on them, we just manage them. We just manage these AI. We just actually managing this AI so that we can actually take on more responsibility, do things that's actually more important, more strategic, and probably more interesting and more fun, right? Because the AI is, what the AI is able to automate are typically these repetitive and mundane works. Now, from stage 1 to stage 4 that we have talked about so far, these tend to be internally focused. Now, even though there are some use cases that in customer service that could start as early as, I would say, stage 3, but primarily these tend to be internally focused. But the idea is that as the AI become better and better at mimicking what we do, right, then it's ready to face the external world, right? So the next 2 stages, stage 5 and 6, is primarily externally focused. So stage 5 is what we call the delivery of last mile. So what does that mean? So digital is great, it's wonderful. We can actually buy a lot of stuff and configure them, transact and pay for them online. But these items that we buy, not every one of them can be downloaded, right? A lot of them need to be delivered physically to our home, right? If it was some service that need to be performed, like washing a window or something, they still need to be performed by human, right? Obviously, you can't eat a meal digitally yet, right? So a lot of things we actually can't do digitally. So these, I would say the last mile is about delivering the product and the service to the end user, that very, very last mile, where the product and the service actually gets done and gets performed, okay? So this obviously involves a lot of robotics, and so it will actually create a world where humans actually work alongside with robots, okay? So today in San Francisco, there already are robotic baristas that can actually make your coffee. And if you actually customize that, the way that you want your coffee made, every time you go there and buy the coffee, it will be perfect every single time, okay? Whether it's a good day or bad day, it will be perfect every single time, okay? So, so these are a very, very dramatic, different world than what we know of today. Now, if you are able to go through stage 1 and stage 5, all the way to stage 5, right, then you're ready to move on to the last stage of this AI adoption roadmap. Now, this last stage is what we call the AI augmented economy. The AI augmented economy is a world that's actually potentially very, very different from the world that we know of today, right? Because a lot of work, especially the mundane, repetitive work, can already be automated by AI. So we actually can work a lot less, okay? The society can actually function and operate efficiently enough to support programs such as universal income, so that we don't have to work for survival anymore, right? We no longer have to work to survive. We may still work, but we only will do work that we love to do and we like to do, we're passionate about, right? That we care about. We have a lot more time to enjoy with our family and focus on things that are actually more important to us, right? So this is likely to have a lot of, I would say, very profound impact on our society as well as our economy. Now, obviously, we're far from this, the last stage, this AI augmented economy, right? And that's because throughout this AI adoption journey that you see here, it's actually full of challenges. So now, basically, I've organized this in a way that if you were to solve 2 challenges on every single stage of this adoption roadmap, well, what would they be, okay? So this is how they are organized. These challenges actually exist throughout this entire journey, okay? It's just that some, I would say, challenges are actually more severe, more important to address in certain stages. So those are the stages that you want to address those problems, okay? So now, where do you think most companies are today, right? So obviously, not surprisingly, most companies are pretty early in this journey, right? Most are still embarking on this digital transformation. But if you are using any kind of AI solution, you are already on stage 2, okay? Now, stage 2 is actually the first stage where you're actually using AI, okay? True AI, right? So digital transformation, this first stage is actually only collecting the data, getting the raw material that's necessary to train the AI. Now, so here's where I said that, where the theory diverge from practice, okay? In theory, AI will help us automate our work, so it makes our work much more efficient and much more effective. Naturally, you would say that obviously people will adopt this system, right? But because the cost is so high of a mistake, right, people are also reluctant, right, to adopt this, right? So there's actually a lot of resistance if this is the first time you actually encounter trying to use this AI, trying to adopt this AI system in your company. So let's see how we can overcome this adoption challenge. So there's an adoption strategy that I've developed over the course of my work with many different companies. So now if this was your employee base, say you want to drive the AI adoption in your company, and this is your employee base, right? Every company has some, I would say, star employee. These stellar employees are denoted by a star because they're the top performers. And every company will have employee with, I would say, probably a pretty diverse and very levels of enthusiasm for AI, right? Some may be very enthusiastic. These are color in orange, right? Some may have, I would say maybe not so excited. Some may be even skeptic or maybe even naysayer. So there are lots of very different sentiment around AI in your entire employee base. So the first stage of this AI adoption journey involved what we call creating a secret pilot, okay? Now the secret pilot is actually a pilot, that's designed to be successful, okay? So you select this pilot team by picking the people who are already top performers but are also enthusiastic about AI, okay? So these typically, I would say, typically is a very, very small group of people, because your top performers are already, a small set in your company, right? It's a small, very small group of people in your company, right? And to find among those people who are also enthusiastic about AI, right? That's probably an even smaller group, right? Now, this is actually a good thing, an advantage to be small at this stage, right? Because when you are small, it's actually easier to kick off, and it has less disruption to the normal business process, right? But the secrecy is actually important too. Now, remember, this is a secret pilot, right? The secret pilot is made secret because no technology deployment is ever perfect, right? So every deployment of technology is going to have some kinks, and so by keeping it a secret, you contain the damage, and you also give you the time to actually work out these kinks, right, and perfect this deployment system. Now, once you actually iron out all the kinks in this deployment process, now these pilot groups should be able to realize the benefit from using this AI system and achieve something pretty amazing, because they're already top performers, right? Now, with the gain of, with the benefit and help of this AI, right, they should be able to achieve something that seems humanly impossible. So when that happens, you're ready to move on to the next phase, right? So the next phase is what we call recognition and socialization. So here is where you want to, this is no more secret, right? You want to actually recognize the performance of this pilot group and socialize them within the company, so that everybody know what they are able to achieve using this AI system. Now, you want to create a sense of curiosity, create this curiosity. This would test your communication skill as a leader. You want to create, get people curious about AI, but not give it away, right, completely, right? So you create this curiosity that propagates within this company. And this is actually also a good time to essentially create an educational program to educate people more about AI, so they are not as fearful of this type of new technology, right? And as you do this, people's, I would say, levels of enthusiasm about AI typically will grow, okay? Even I would say, the skeptic, they may start to be curious. Even the naysayers and the people who are afraid will be less resistant to try it out, okay? So when that happens, you want to go into the next phase. The phase 3 is what we call the opt-in gate. So the opt-in gate is essentially a program that anyone could opt into, right, to try out this AI technology themselves. But the gate is kept narrow for a reason, okay? The gate is kept narrow so that not everyone who wants to opt in can opt in all at once, okay? The gate is kept narrow. And it's kept narrow for, for one, that it creates exclusivity, right? It basically says that not everyone can actually go into this program, only special people can do it, right? So it creates this exclusivity, so it drives people, I would say, it drives more desire to actually want to participate, right? But it also serves a purpose of like creating the proper mentorship, right? Because, these people who are, curious, they're not excited about AI, but they may be curious. So they need to be properly mentored by the people who know how to use this AI system efficiently and prolifically at work, right? So basically, how do you select the people who go into this program? Well, you do the same thing as you do in phase 1, right? You select for success. You select participants for success, right? You pick the one who are most enthusiastic and who are also top performers themselves, right? Now, if you run out of kind of top performers who are enthusiastic, right, you could lean more. Now you can actually start to lean more to the people who have more enthusiasm, right? And because now you have already people who know how to use this system to help them perform better at work, right? These people could be mentoring people who, as long as they're willing and excited to learn, okay? So now, every time you actually go through this opt-in program, right, you double the participants, right? And this actually builds up a community of practice, so that people know who to go to when there's question about AI and how to use this effectively at work. Now, when you actually do this, every time you double, right, this exponential doubling actually grows very fast. I mean, all of you probably can see how fast the coronavirus spread, right? So exponential doubling actually grows very, very fast, right? And this actually eventually will grow to a point where we start tipping this adoption scale, okay? Now, if we tip the balance of this adoption scale, basically, pretty much everybody will opt in, right? Because now even the naysayer will have no choice but to adopt because they don't want to be left behind, okay? So now I just want to say that it also helps to start your education program early, right? Because if you educate people more about this AI early on, then it actually reduces fear, right? And we also know that if you actually do this early in phase 2, when you start recognizing people's performance, then you also give you something what we call the convergence of theory and practice, right? People could see what they learn in this educational program, how they actually translate to real performance of their peers that they could actually see is real, right? So this also builds trust. So this is actually how you drive mass enterprise AI adoption. So what does the future entail for every one of you here? Well, we know that the future is got to be more contactless as a result of this pandemic. So what that means is that business will have to adopt e-commerce and become digital business in the future. So in order to survive in such a competitive digital world, business will also have to adopt AI. So the future will also be AI augmented. And what that means is that more and more of our work will be automated as well. But before we get there, we have to go through this AI adoption journey. But now you know how to overcome this adoption challenge. That's a very, very big challenge along this AI adoption maturity curve. So this future is actually here now. And this future is actually now in your hand. Thank you very much for your time and attention.